and welcome back to another episode of Nick Tiffany's Movie Reviews, coming at you live and in print format at nicktiffany.com, in audio format wherever you get your podcasts, and even in video on YouTube, TikTok, Reels, pretty much any social media option you have, you can find us there. Today is not a review of a new movie, but continuing in a series of what I'm just going to call throwbacks, flashbacks. I don't know. We're going to find a better name that's not as cliche. But in continuing with seeing Tenet, with Dune, all sorts of films are getting re-releases. The Spider-Man movies are going to be re-releasing like once a week for 8 weeks in April. Tonight, I mean, I'm just coming off of this a few hours ago. I went and saw The Matrix. It's the 25th anniversary for The Matrix. So I went and I saw it, and they had it in Dolby Digital format at our AMC theater nearby. So a few weeks ago when I saw that pop up, I was like, yep, no brainer. Let me get my Christopher Nolan seat right in the middle. I've been super looking forward to this, especially because, you know, with March Madness starting off this week, there's a few bigger releases coming out, I would say. You've got Ghostbusters, you've got the Sydney Sweeney Immaculate movie, you've got the Late Night with the Devil. So there's tons of stuff that's coming out in theaters. You know, this is one of those weeks where I was like, okay, I've got other interests other than movies. March Madness is once a year. It's an incredible time. I'm a basketball fan. You know, I got my brackets going. I got the multi-view viewership going. So I'm like, I gotta choose that. But if I'm doing one movie in theaters this week, you bet your ass it's going to be The Matrix. This is a movie I've seen dozens of times. I truly think I've seen at least the first Matrix movie. Just with my dad alone, we've probably watched this movie 25, 30 times. It feels like, because I feel like I know the movie like the back of my hand. There's so many quotes in everyday life that it feels like decades now I have used in conversation with friends, just between he and I, back and forth. Just so many quotable moments, so many incredible sequences and theories and things that just changed film forever at the turn of the century. You know, this was 1999, right before Y2K. So I was totally chomping at the bit to go see this on the big screen. It's been great at home, played amazing at home, but kind of like a Titanic, this is one where it's like, this is a favorite film of mine. Would love the opportunity to see it in a large format. And quick story about pulling into the theater. You know, we get there into the auditorium probably about 12 minutes after previews should have started. The screen's not lit up, the projector's not on, the lights are on. I'm telling my buddy, I'm like, dude, this is not a good sign. I've had this happen 4 or 5 times where if the projector is not on and the previews aren't going, it's probably not going to play. And they're going to come in and tell us there was some issue. And this is not really one that you could reschedule for another night. But fortunately, after what would have been 30 minutes of previews at an AMC theater, all the lights turned down, the Dolby Digital deal played, and then the Roadshow green type logo started popping up, and you got the Matrix music going, and then I was transported. And, you know, my buddy and I, both born 95, like 96, 97. So, you know, we really didn't witness a lot of the 90s, or even though we were dressed in 90s clothes and probably listened to 90s music when we were younger, air quotes, it wasn't necessarily a part of society and life that we were participating in or remember actively. You know, I had bigger computers when we were younger, but it was nothing like the green glowing command prompt style like is so fashionable in this film. But I mean, just from the opening moments, the sequence with Trinity running from the agents, the music in this movie is just it's something I've always thought about The Matrix, and why I often prefer an original soundtrack versus tons of different pop songs or country songs and everything. Having a score like that with different wind instruments and drums and all the when Trinity takes that leap after looking in the small window, rolling down the stairs, popping up with her guns there, just incredible. Like it feels like, I mean, there's obviously so many moments in this movie where you're like, wow, this is why we have movies. This is storytelling, action wise, especially on a level that we've never seen. It makes you believe things that almost couldn't be true. So just they set the scene, the Wachowski set the scene so well at the beginning of this movie, and they completely draw you in. Listening into it in the Dolby theater again, I mean, the audio was just incredible. The screen, the quality of the image was just beautiful. Still looks obviously time appropriate for the 90s. Definitely feels it from the moment Keanu gets the Nokia phone from Morpheus at the beginning, kind of moving around the cubicles. There's just so much of that time and place that kind of weirdly feels foreign now for the world we live in the US. Um, but just so cool to see on the screen. And it just really plays so well, obviously, with what the entire story revolves around. It's interesting watching this after having watched Dune and Dune Part 2 again, and just thinking about all these movies that have, prophecy or the chosen one and what path they will walk, and different takes on how all that, how all that happens and what the chosen one really could be. I really love how they use the oracle in these movies, and just this idea too of, the line that always stuck out for me from Morpheus was, the oracle told you exactly what you needed to hear at that time. And there's so many things like that that you see kind of echoed in Dune and other properties where, you know, whether or not you were destined to be this one, you have the potential in you. Part of it is just realizing it, part of it is believing in yourself, and then part of it is being able to make the calls or the sacrifices or the decisions that most people couldn't. And so just this is a tough film to review, I feel like, because I mean, if you haven't seen The Matrix, go watch The Matrix. I don't know what you're doing here if you haven't. I appreciate you if you're listening and you haven't seen it, but this movie and the way it looks at everyday life, the way it challenged a lot of people's beliefs in a separate manner. What I would read about this film reminded me a lot about Avatar, where after watching Avatar, people were kind of in a separate, equal but similar way, maybe, or dissimilar. I don't know. People watched Avatar and were kind of depressed. We're feeling like, oh, like our world's horrible, our world's a lie. This is like, we could have this beautiful green paradise, but we're ruining it. And, in the Matrix, of course, it's like, wow, we've got this wonderful world that we live in and inhabit, but no, it's actually horrible on the outside and we're just being puppeted. And you would never know. And then you see, I don't know, just watching this movie, I kept seeing so many science fiction film influences from the last 20 years that just call back to so many great moments from The Matrix. The training montage in the dojo with Morpheus, is that air you think you're breathing? The little looks that he gives Neo, the fighting choreography in these movies just is upheld extremely well. For me, watching it on the big screen, especially, it was like, okay, there's not enough movies these days that have consistently great hand to hand combat, whether it's sword fighting, knife fighting, whatever. There's just a lack of it. There's a lot of really cool guns, lasers. We could do a lot of really cool things with ships and things like that now. But again, to bring up Dune, going from Dune 2, going to this film, having really well done fight choreography that gets intricate, that gets, something that stood out to me, especially in The Matrix too, between Mr. Smith and Neo and they're fighting, or whomever they're fighting. If you are not able to make an offensive blow towards your opponent, let's say Mr. Smith's coming to swing at Neo. He doesn't have time to hit Smith, but he could punch Smith's fist. Or when he goes to kick, the other person kind of kicks their foot out of the way. The defensive combat was really something that stood out to me when I watched it this time. And just the rhythm of everything, it looked so incredible. The sound design in the movie really enhances so much of that combat, because even though it's fake, it looks like they're giving 100%. It looks like they're going full motion. even though you know this wood that Neo gets kicked back into and just shatters really probably is some styrofoam, whatever, something meant to break easily. But you feel the impact of him hitting it, like, in the chair, in the auditorium, you felt it. And the sound, the crack, everything, it was like, oh. There's a point later in the movie when Neo and Mr. Smith are fighting down in the subway station, and it a lot like I've seen in boxing, or as Rocky might say, sometimes it's how hard you get hit and then get back up. You know, using your body to take a few blows, get in close, and then deliver a pretty hard blow. I mean, there's a moment where Neo gets in close and Smith kind of wraps him up and delivers like 3 kidney shots to like the back of his kidneys, and it just like, oh, it was like, oh, that kind of hurts. I know it's not real, but damn, it just, they sold it so well. And I love the moment when Neo gets the little, stops his fist right in front of his throat and then extends the fingers to kind of choke Smith for a second. There's just, I don't know, there's so many cool moments in this movie. And I'm sure Zack Snyder probably got a lot of influence as far as some of the slow mo goes in here. There was more slow motion, I guess, than I remembered. And maybe more so, especially in the fight scene, obviously, when they break into the military run building at first. We need guns, lots of guns. I forgot that a lot of that was in slow motion. But then I love the moments when, Neo's got his Uzis and he's kind of ducking, sliding. All right, I'm gonna shoot over here, shoot you there. I mean, it's brilliant. It's awesome stuff. Uh, Especially ending the movie with the Rage Against the Machines. Great music, great. It's just overall feel of the movie. Their outfits are incredible. Um, I mean, I came home beaming. I'm still beaming from it. It's the coolest thing to see, I think, something like this the way it was meant to. And so I think for a long, long time I used to go to, we've got like a strand of movie theaters around us called Galaxy Theaters. And so Galaxy Monroe was always playing, Back to the Future. They're going to be playing Jurassic Park. They're going to be playing just tons of classic movies that I remember looking at and I was like, who's going to go see Jurassic Park at the theater again? Like, it's probably in better quality at home, or why would you go do that when you could watch it at home? And even when I was a film critic starting out, I would think that younger me would have loved to go see things like that, but I was wrong. And so now I'm like, wow, okay, I missed out on seeing a lot of good stuff like this, but I'm just really happy that theaters are continuing to do this, that studios are celebrating, whether it's 100 years of Disney, 100 years of Sony, and that's why we're getting the Spider-Man movies, which is going to be great because I never got to see Spider-Man 1 or 2 in the theaters. And so, I mean, those are two of the best comic book movies ever. So I think it's a really cool opportunity that I would encourage you guys to do, whoever you are, whatever kind of movies you like. Just do some simple searches, like once a week, special screening, like, the Matrix screening, Titanic screening, something, because you never know. I mean, Eventbrite, there's weird little things where even in the Seattle area, I'm like, oh, this theater's doing a one night screening of Les Miserables. And, I've seen that in the theaters a few times. So I didn't have to go again to that. But, if someone missed out on that, it's like, oh, that's a cool option to have. And I think it does really make a difference. And it really affects how you view the movie. And it really, I think, changes it completely. So having this experience, amazing. The Matrix is still one of the greatest sci-fi movies of all time. Just holds up extremely well compared to, I mean, just so much of the actual props, the location shooting that they were doing, actual stunt work that they're doing. It looks incredible. And so, CGI aside, like, this is the weird side now, and like the kind of shitty side about getting older, I guess, and having comparisons. Because I remember watching the original Star Wars and it was like, those were good. But I'd seen some other stuff that probably had better graphics by then. So it didn't wow me in that same sense that some things like do now. And so in some ways, the first Matrix, after you've seen it once, after you have your mind blown by everything, it's still amazing. And there's still so many moments I look forward to. I think weirdly watching this tonight, it really made me want to see Matrix Reloaded in theaters. And I really hope when that hits its 25th anniversary, they'll do another Dolby deal for it, because this scratched the itch. And like the end of Dune Part 1, it's like, cool, you've really set up an incredible story, awesome characters that I really care about now. You gave me like just enough really awesome action, and now I'm ready for part 2. And Matrix Reloaded, I haven't watched nearly as much as the first Matrix, but Matrix Reloaded is just chock full of so many of my favorite action sequences, whether it's, the two ghost guys and their crazy samurai sword wielding, and Morpheus cutting the car in half, and then, or not cutting it in half, but slicing the car, hitting it with the slow motion automatic Glock. Just, just brilliant moments. Neo doing his Superman deal, all the cars in the Cyclone. These movies are incredible. The Wachowskis, what they created, I think will truly stand the test of time. One of my favorite. I'm just telling you my favorite bits. I'll wrap this up just with one of my favorite things about the Matrix and sequences, and it's just powerful movie making. I think when the whole Morpheus heist scene after Trinity puts a bullet in the Smith's head. I mean, nothing better than dodge this. Learns how to program the helicopter. Neo comes down with the minigun, just completely unloads it. Morpheus, even after being shot in the leg, they dive and catch him, drop him down. And when the helicopter's going down, and Neo takes whatever rope or restraint or whatever he's got, and he does this slow motion flip around as he kind of ties it around his arm tighter to hold on to it. And it's dragging him all the way to the edge. And you see Trinity holding on to the other end, shooting the buckle to release herself, diving out of the helicopter as it crashes. And you've got Neo up top holding her. You see her coming down as the helicopter crashes into the building. And the way that the glass ripples first and the wave it creates before all of it starts exploding out. I remember when I was younger, I'd never seen something like that before. And it was always just the coolest thing when Neo, he gets serious for a moment, does this motion. He's like, all right, whatever happens, I'm going to save Trinity here. She's a badass. Hits the plexi, the whatever the glass is, nearly shatters that. But just that helicopter explosion, it's incredible stuff. And it's those moments where I'm just like, even now talking about it, I'm getting choked up. I'm getting goosebumps, because there's just so many moments here when Neo opens the door and Smith's there, just shoots him, takes him by surprise, does his whole one-handed, like, oh, you think you're better, Smith? Nah. Hits him with the kick, the slow leg sweep before placing it back down. After he jumps into Smith and, completely shatters him. The other coolest thing I'd ever seen in a movie was Neo flexing and the room warping around him, and then him breathing and releasing, and everything kind of like wobbling back into place. It was just such innovative, cool filmmaking that has just left such a lasting impression on me. And, it's no wonder why I love the movies that the Wachowskis make. Cloud Atlas is among another that just, on so many levels, from storytelling to characters to action, the way that they see the world, even Jupiter Ascending, even though I'm not a huge fan of that one, but there's still so much visual flair and language in there that is just so different and so much better than what so many people are actually capable of doing. So, maybe I'll give the Matrix 4 a rewatch after this. I think it's deserving and due. And Revelations, or I forget what number 3 was called. I'll rewatch 3 and 4, but Reloaded is on the docket. If they could do a CGI edit or a better edit of Neo fighting all the Smiths in the courtyard when he pulls the pole out of the ground, like if there was a way just to clean the faces up a little, because that's really what you notice the most, is it's just kind of the faces that really you're like, oh, all right, I guess it is fake a little bit. It looks badass, but you're like, I guess it is kind of fake. But you know what? They were innovators. They did this stuff before anyone else was. They laid the path. They showed everybody the door, and now people are walking through it. But the Wachowskis set the tone. They will be forever cemented in the Cinema Hall of Fame. So thank you for listening to me ramble about The Matrix. Again, if you haven't seen it, watch it. If you haven't watched it in a while, I think it always gets better with every watch. I think what you take away from the characters, from the story, just so many quotable lines, truly, truly. But it just, movie making at its peak. One of the greatest movies of the 20th century, hands down. There's no question about that. Thank you guys for listening again. I think next week is going to be another in this saga. No, I think Godzilla's maybe coming out next week. I don't know. We'll find out. But I know for certain that I'll be seeing Ex Machina in IMAX. I've already seen it twice in theaters, but it was years ago. And, I think IMAX is, going to boost the sound a little bit. It's not going to change the video quality or the size of it. But Ex Machina was just an incredible movie. And this will be a good precursor leading into Alex Garland's Civil War. It's coming out in a few weeks. So stay tuned for that. There's going to be a lot of good stuff coming your way. Thanks as always for listening. You can find NT Movie Reviews on all social media networks, podcast platforms, and on YouTube. Thanks, and we'll see you next time.